Welcome to Prison Professors. I am Michael Santos, founder, and today I'm going to be sharing some information from our founders page at prisonprofessors.org. This is an area where I create a tremendous amount of content to show people in prison the strategies that got me through the journey. It was super important to memorialize every step. I did that through all 26 years that I served, and it really helped me build a pathway to success. Now, these lessons aren't only for people in prison. In my view, anyone who is outside, anyone who is facing a crisis can figure out a path that will lead them down a better road, something towards the result that they want. When I was first arrested, I didn't really know how to think that way, but it was through reading every day and learning from people who were way smarter than me that I could create a strategy. And one of the first books I think that had a huge influence on my life was the Bible. Now, I've never been a religious person. I don't go to church regularly. I grew up baptized Catholic, and I went to a Catholic school. It was called St. John's Elementary in Seattle, Washington. And when we were living in North Seattle, my sisters and I attended that school until we moved to Lake Forest Park. But I was an altar boy. I just wasn't very religious. But I want to share with people how reading the Bible helped me during that difficult time. Because you're arrested. I was 23 years old. I'm locked in solitary confinement. I really don't know what's going on with my life. I know I'm facing life without the possibility of parole. And when you're in that environment, you look for some kind of wisdom. And what better wisdom can we find from the Bible? So I developed this strategy of reading from the book of Genesis, starting in the book of Genesis, and just reading a little bit every day, sometimes more than other times, but I would read these passages all the way until I got to the last passage of Revelation. And when I got there, I would just start at the beginning again. So read it many times while I was in prison. And today, I wrote about those influences in this section at prisonprofessors.org called the Founders page. And so I would like to read it because I always pipe these into prisons and try to inspire people who are living in crisis. But maybe you're living in a crisis right now and you need to find a way to break through into a new life, to restore hope, to build a pathway to something better in your life. I can only share with you what worked for me. So when authorities arrested me on August the 11th, 1987, I didn't have any idea what to expect. My lawyer advised me not to speak with anyone and to rely on him to secure the best possible outcome. He explained that there was a significant difference between an indictment and a conviction. Yet in the federal system, I would later learn that while differences may exist, the vast majority of indictments lead to a sentencing hearing. So I was locked in a solitary cell. I felt isolated and overwhelmed. I was seeking solace anywhere I could find it, and in that state of mind, I turned to the only book available to me, the Bible. Though I had never been particularly religious, the familiar story offered a much-needed escape. As a child, I had attended St. John's Catholic Elementary School in North Seattle and even served as an altar boy. But as I grew older, my connection to religion waned. By the time of my arrest, I rarely attended church, even on holidays like Christmas and Easter. I would basically go if my grandparents or my parents wanted me to go. In the silence of my jail cell, the Bible became a source of comfort and guidance. I began, as I said, with the book of Genesis and read straight through to Revelation, just a little bit every day. Sometimes I might read for 20 minutes, sometimes I might read for 10 minutes, sometimes I might read for 2 hours. Certainly, some of those books I would read over and over again because they inspired me. Despite being betrayed and imprisoned, Joseph's faith and perseverance led him to triumph, and that gave me hope. His journey gave me hope that better times could lie ahead. And then there was the parable of the talents, which inspired me to focus on personal development and to use the time inside to grow and to create some body of work that might help me feel productive and not isolated and not have, my body would be confined, but my mind could get liberated. And then, of course, there was the story of the prodigal son, which reinforced the possibility of redemption and reconciliation reminding me that I could work toward returning to my family and society as a better person. So reading the Bible became a daily practice that I maintained through my 26 years in prison. Each night before going to sleep, I would read a few passages. And once I finished Revelation, it'd be simple. I'd just go back to Genesis. And as I recall, I used to mark how long did it take me to go from one to another. And these were like steps that I was climbing out of isolation. I felt as if I was gaining more wisdom. I was liberating myself and feeling just a little bit more free. The ritual provided structure and a sense of purpose in a place where both were often absent. So the lessons I found in Scripture influenced me profoundly. They motivated me to strive for personal transformation, to prove worthy of the love and support that my family extended to me, and to work toward becoming a better person. In solitary confinement, I learned that even in the darkest times, there is strength to be found in faith and in reflection. And as I always do, with all of these lessons that I send into prisons, I always encourage people to develop self-directed learning because, you can't depend on the government to change your life. I always like to quote Ronald Reagan when he was president. He said, the 9 words that nobody wants to hear is, I'm with the government and I'm here to help. If you're waiting for the government to change your life, you're making a bad decision. You've got to learn to invest in yourself. You've got to know that the world is not going to be friendly to people who have a prison record, who have a criminal background. I always considered myself to be unemployable, but I figured if I could invest in myself, I would develop skills and make myself more valuable. If I could make myself more valuable, I wouldn't need a job. I'd be able to create my own income streams and eventually work toward making a broader impact on the lives of millions of people. So here's the question that I ask people in prison to consider. What sources of strength and guidance can you turn to in challenging times, and how can they inspire you to grow? Well, that's not limited to somebody who's going through the criminal justice system, right? It doesn't matter what kind of crisis you're in. It can feel imprisoning. It can feel like it is obliterating hope. And what you need is a pathway to hope. And you need to look to leaders who give you that pathway. And then you need to build a body of work that will advance you as a candidate for relief, for help. And that's one lesson that I learned from so many people. I learned that lesson from anybody who achieved a high level of success, that they were always working to define success as the best possible outcome. And then they were working to build a plan that would advance them. One of the projects that our nonprofit sponsors is called Prison Professors Talent. For that very reason, I believe that I would be unemployable. I believe that nobody would hire me. But that didn't mean I couldn't become more valuable. I mean, Jim Rohn, a famous motivational speaker, I can't paraphrase him exactly, but I can tell you one of the things that he said. He says that, are we all created equal? Well, yeah, we're all created equal. But that may sound hollow to somebody who can't get a job, to somebody who can't earn a living, to somebody who's earning $10 an hour or $15 an hour, and somebody else is earning $100,000 a year or $1 million a year. Why is that? Why does somebody's worth, if we're all created equal, why does one guy earn $15 an hour and one guy earns, $15,000 a week or a month or a year or $1 million a year? Does that mean that person is more valuable as a person? No, but it does mean the person has more skill. You got to focus on developing value. So if you don't like the situation that you're in, what can you do to make life better? Where can you find influences that will help you grow, that will help you become more valuable? I knew I had to become valuable. When my wife, Carol, as you can read about anywhere on the site, picked me up from prison, I told her that I'd have our first $1 million within 5 years, which probably seems a little preposterous for a guy who just finished 26 years in prison. But I didn't have any doubt. I was 100% confident that I could crush that goal. And the reason was because I learned from leaders. They taught me how to think differently. And when I go into prisons, a lot of times people will say, well, I want to do what you do. when I get out. Or even today, people will reach out and say, oh, could you be my coach? Could you mentor me? Well, the answer is no, I can't. My mission is about building an impact, about creating something of value, to helping more people figure out, how do I become more valuable regardless of where I am? That's why I always make a promise. Number one, I'll never lie to you. Number two, I'll never ask you to do something I didn't do. And number three, I'll never ask anybody to pay me a penny. There's a lot of guys out here who will talk about, I make 100 grand a month and send me, $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month or $10,000 a month to help me. But the reality, unfortunately, is that people who do that are generally people who are making their $100,000 a month from other people who are paying them. I'm not going to say they don't have value. I'm not disparaging anyone. But the reality is, if you're really crushing it out here, you're not doing anything to get paid. That's why I don't take money from anyone. I'm always focused on building, and I'm always deeply focused to making an impact on the lives of other people. And I've met many more people in society that were in a prison bigger than I was ever in, because they think differently. I want you to think differently. I want you to reach your highest potential. I believe in you. My name is Michael Santos. I'm the founder of PrisonProfessors.org, the nonprofit. And I hope that you'll visit us soon, and I hope that you'll work on reaching your highest potential. Thanks for being a part of our community.